Hi, and welcome back for episode 5 of Finding Her Voice, a podcast by women who love film about women who make film. This month, I am joined by editor in chief Gabrielle Bondi once again. Um, so, this month, did I say this week? I'm joined by, we do this monthly. Sorry, I am a nut who doesn't remember what I'm doing at any given point. But onto the topic at hand. Jane Campion and Lynne Ramsay are two of the current greats that for some reason aren't included in the same breath with names such as David Fincher, Tarantino, and Christopher Nolan. And one of the reasons they're so beloved beyond the sheer and maybe even uncomfortable beauty that they capture within sadness and ugliness is their honest depictions of women. The women of their world are complex, deeply flawed, and entirely human. With our focus this month being on depictions of motherhood, or more specifically, subversive motherhood, we couldn't think of any better films than We Need to Talk About Kevin and The Piano. But firstly, usually we go on to kind of an icebreaker question, something fun. But this month, we wanted to shine a light on Mira Nair's Queen of Katwe.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we've spoken at length about Mira Nair before with The Namesake, and we're a big fan of her work, and we want to make sure that we're shining a light on current films as well as past films that are worth checking out. So, Gabby, I don't know if you wanted to speak a little bit because I know you got to see the film and what you thought. I know it was a pretty positive reaction.
Yeah, I adored the film. It was just a feel-good movie, and I mean, I'm not a very kind of like an unorthodox sports movie, and I don't think a lot of people consider chess as sports, but it is competitive.
Sport of the mind.
Yeah, and it's incredibly well filmed. Like Mira Nair knows how to capture a locale, the atmosphere, and the sense of like community within the sense of community within that place. And she does that so well with Queen of Katwe. And the actors are all great. I mean, Lupita Nyong'o is fantastic. David Oyelowo is, once again, great. And the children are wonderful. They give these such like kind of charismatic, sincere performances that, it just makes the whole thing a lot more heartwarming.
Yeah, it's been one that I'm super excited to see, and especially with the fact that it's one of the few kind of bigger budgeted or like at least big studio name films coming out directed by a woman. I'm really eager to support. I think I'm seeing it next week, and if it's PG, I want to take my little sister. So
it's definitely like a movie that every little girl should see.
Okay.
And yeah, definitely like even should be played in schools and stuff because I think it's really empowering and it's eye-opening at the same time, and teaches you to believe in yourself and to learn from your mistakes and all that good stuff that all kids and even grown-ups should know and be reminded of.
Yeah, no, it seems like a nice little inspiring story, and with a cast that I simply adore. So I am so excited to see it. I'm so bummed I haven't seen it yet. I missed it at Toronto, so I was super bummed. I missed a lot of things at Toronto that I'm very annoyed about. But okay, so moving forward to less sunshiny affair like Queen of Katwe. Our films this month were the wonderful picks. By Jane Campion and released in 1991, and We Needed to Talk About Kevin, directed by Lynne Ramsay, released in 2011. I have been so nervous, I guess is the right word, about watching We Need to Talk About Kevin for the longest time, which is why I have not seen it yet. But considering I have managed to browbeat everyone into watching my picks for the last 4 months, only fair. And I made you guys watch Advantageous, which I thought was kind of depressing for a first go. So I was like, fine, I'll watch it. And it was as depressing as I thought it would be. We'll get to the piano in a second, but Gabby, you loved We Need to Talk About Kevin, and you saw it a couple of times, right? On first go?
Yeah, I did. I don't know what that says about me, but I don't know. I mean, it's like a horror film to me. It's so frightening. But I think I'm so intrigued by the complexities of Tilda Swinton's character's feelings for her son, who's played by Ezra Miller. Because it's just like, I don't know, for some reason, it completely enthralled me throughout the whole thing. It's so visceral. It's full of imagery. And, I mean, it's just so disturbing. I mean, there's some parts in it that, oh my God, like, it's crazy. And yet, I don't know. I'm totally fascinated by the psychology of it all. And I think Lynn Ramsay really taps into that so well with the film, through the imagery, through the performances, you know, through the way she knits the narrative together. And you get towards that ending, which is nuts. So, yeah, I don't know. I just knew, like, after I saw it, I was so disturbed. I was questioning if I ever wanted kids. And I'm like, but, you know, I need to see this movie again.
That's probably the right reaction to have after that movie. I told you before we went live with the broadcast that I kind of cheated my way into watching this movie, because again, it's just like, it's the subject matter. Like, I can watch harsher films, I can watch gory films, but just like the subject matter of this one totally skeeved me out and made me so nervous. So like, I was like washing dishes while I did it, like making my breakfast. Like, I totally was like kind of multitasking, which is the worst thing to do as a film critic. And I normally wouldn't do it, but I just like, yeah, it was a rough go. But it is very visceral, and what I picked up from it was how unsettling it was, not just by the nature of the story, but by how it was told. Like, just the way they would shoot certain things that kind of make you uncomfortable, like really close-up shots of him biting his nails, which was revolting. But also, it's just like, it's something that you don't think of that would make you uncomfortable in a movie, but then they do it. Or like when they capture her walking down the steps from the court and her ankles are kind of rolling on her heels. Like that, again, you're kind of like cringing a little bit. And then she would like put this really lighthearted pop song on Eva's ride to the jail to see her son. And it's just like, or like in the Halloween sequence. So it's just like the way they use that. And I think for me, I was more intrigued maybe by the filmmaking than the story, because there was at times where I thought maybe Kevin was too obviously like the kid from The Omen, like just an asshole. Like, I think like the most interesting scene to me was when he was sick. Mm-hmm. And for once he showed a little bit of tenderness towards his mom. And then the next day he was like, shut up, you're a loser. Or like, I know how to dress myself. And it's like, you're 7. Like, shut up. But yeah, no, so I thought the dynamics were so interesting. I thought Ezra Miller in that last scene was tremendous, and Tilda Swinton kind of solidified why she's, you know, one of the best working actors and just this enigma of a performer. So yeah, I'm very glad I watched it. I'm glad I watched it in the morning. You know, like while I like drinking my coffee and totally chill with the world. But yeah, no, I'm very glad I watched it. And I think it's my first Lynn Ramsay film, actually, sadly.
I think it's the only one I've seen of hers.
Yeah, well, because she has other films that are just sound so like this is dire, but her other ones just sound bleak. You know, like that rap. And I'm just again, I'm just kind of hesitant. I'm very much a mood movie watcher. I have to be in the right one. So yeah, but I really loved it. And before we kind of go on discussing it maybe more in detail, you had seen The Piano before, right?
Yes. I was like 10 or 11 years old when I watched it. My mom. Yeah, my mom loved it. And she had seen it when it first came out, and we rented it, and she's like, "Oh, I want to watch this movie. It was so good." And she completely forgot about all like the sexual scenes in it. So we were
one violent scene.
What?
The one violent scene too.
Oh yeah, that too. She forgot about a lot that happened in it apparently, or her memory of it wasn't as graphic as it really was. I don't know, but I remember watching it with her, and she was just like, "Oh my God." But see, she was never the type to censor me really while watching something, so she let me watch the whole thing with her. But I mean, I was like, I think my real only memory of it was because of Harvey Keitel, because it was the first like male frontal nudity scene I've ever seen.
I know, right? Because like I don't think I thought I was so like sheltered. I remember I
Yeah.
saw Roy when I was kind of young, and I like they almost showed full frontal, and I had like a heart attack. But that's because it was Legolas, and I was like, what? But maybe that wasn't that long ago, and now I'm gonna like sound like such a oh shit. But maybe I'm wrong. I was like Gabby. I watched the piano when I was 10 too. But yeah, no, I think that's fantastic because, in all honesty, it's not like the sexuality in that film is like obscene.
It's
You know,
not.
it's more like lay naked with me. Like that's, for the most part. The only thing that really shocked me was the axe scene, the finger scene.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't really expecting that. But also, we live in the world where like Game of Thrones is a thing, so like very little things shock me these days.
Right.
And I had never seen the piano before. It was another one I've been really wanting to see for a long time. I couldn't find it, and then I did a thing to check Amazon Prime, so I went and bought it. So, but now I own it, so that's really awesome. But I really liked this one. Another one that I think I liked on aesthetic almost more than I liked story-wise because it's beautiful. It is like so stunning to watch. Like I feel like I could have muted it every once in a while and just watched the film straight because I just loved it. Like there's a shot where Anna Paquin is running up the hill to give Harvey Keitel, or not, to give Sam Neill the letter or the piano key, and she has her little angel wings on, and it's just gorgeous. And so like, yeah, I love the film, but I do think it's interesting to see a woman who like kind of asserts her own agency despite not having the ability to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and like having that expression through music. So yeah, I liked both films. I think we need to talk about Kevin will probably stick with me longer. But yeah, did you like the piano? Like, did you end up getting to see it again, or are you going based on your younger?
No, I rewatched it last night. So I have a totally different understanding of that movie now than I did when I was 10.
Oh, I'd be so curious to know what you did take away from it when you were 10.
Well actually I didn't like, now I was like all about Harvey Keitel last night. But when I first saw it, I thought he was like, I kind of put him in the same boat as Sam Neill. Just because I thought he was so like the way I thought he was like kind of preying on her by his bargaining with the piano keys.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, I thought that was like a bad thing. And then like last night, it was a little bit different. I kind of understood more of like the nuance of their pairing, of their arrangement, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I can see, there was a part of me last night that did think that, I did think it was a bit preying on her for a little bit, but then again, she asserts her own agency and she's kind of getting what she wants out of it. So
right.
But I also kind of like, I'm kind of ashamed. I did feel sympathy for Sam Neill's character too, even though like I think it's just he performed it so well. Not like the trying to assault her or anything,
No, yeah.
But there's I was listening to something recently, and it's just like, these Jane Campion does depict these characters as very real, flawed characters, and none of them are like stereotypically evil, or stereotypically good. Like all of them make mistakes and whatever, but I don't know. I think he just gave a really good performance. So there was some part of me that was like feeling for him despite the fact that he was an asshole. And I don't know if it's something to kind of attribute to Jane Campion, or even maybe a female perspective of being able to be empathetic even for the worst people. But I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think, I think the word I would use to describe him was kind of pathetic. And and I think that ultimately like makes me a little bit more sympathetic because I feel bad for people who are like that just naturally. And I don't agree with his actions. I think they were horrid, but I think if anyone made me angry was, Anna Paquin's character, because like in the beginning, she's just like, I'm not gonna call him Papa, and she was with her mother on her side, and then, midway through the film, she's referring to him as Papa. She's happy that they're being boarded up, and I'm like, I just like I can't ever imagine like never taking my mother's side. I mean, never not taking my mother's side. Sorry, Mom. Okay.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Same, though. There's like an instinctive protective nature, I feel
Yeah.
like. Daughters over their mothers. So like I would like bulldog up and like fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Anna Paquin's character reminded me very much of Saoirse Ronan's character in Atonement. I'm forgetting her name. It's like if she'd grown up a little bit, like she could have turned into the Bryony, that's it. And yeah, let me like clarify. None of my sympathy or like empathy, I don't know what it is, for Samuel's character is condoning his actions. I just think they are all really well depicted. So they felt like humans. They weren't like caricatures and they weren't drawn just to be bad. But yeah, no, I thought he was an asshole by the end. But they'll give a really good performance. They are also like I understand why so many of them won awards. And despite Paquin's character being a little snot, like he was super good.
Yeah.
But to kind of talk about the two together, I was wondering if you noticed anything that kind of correlated, or like if we're beyond the fact that it's like motherhood depicted in ways that we don't see typically, if there's if there's anything that kind of related the two, because I was trying to find them and I was kind of disappointed, feeling like I had to really grasp for straws.
Well, I think like before we started, you kind of touched on it, that they're both mothers who have other things that are important to them besides just being a mother. So for Ada, it was her piano, and for Ava, is that right?
I thought it was Eva, but maybe they pronounce it differently than I saw it spelled.
Well, in Tilda Swinton's character, she's obviously a career woman, and she never really wanted to give up her job for motherhood. So, I mean, I think that's definitely something they have in common. I think, I guess you see a lot of movies where, I think we're used to seeing movies about moms who are all about their kids. And I think these are movies about moms that, while their kids are, obviously a very important aspect of their lives, there's other things going on.
Yeah, or at very least, they're a very important part of their narrative. I don't know if I think Kevin's like an important part of Eva's life. I think he's a significant part of Eva's life.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a distinction, because I don't think she ever really loves him.
Well, I think at the end, what I found interesting is that she finally knew how to be a mother to him, because he finally, like, her instincts were right, because I think she kind of went through the majority of his childhood thinking she was crazy or nuts for feeling the way she did about Kevin. And then when that happens, I think she feels solace in the fact that she was right.
Yeah.
About him. And I think that's what, I guess, also part that I liked was that, she kind of got that. I guess maybe that's why I felt sort of satisfied by the end. She finally was right. Like, there was something wrong with him,
Yeah.
Besides, everyone who always thought he was like this innocent child. And I mean, I guess with the piano, I don't know. I mean, I would hate to compare Anna Paquin and Ezra Miller's characters. I mean, they both defy their mothers.
Yeah.
And it leads to dire consequences. For both of them. But they ultimately forgive, which I guess falls into the vein of motherhood that we've come to know.
And also, what I think is an interesting part of both, or I guess more specifically when you talk about Kevin, is how much Kevin is also modeling himself after his mother. Like, there are so many similarities throughout the film about like how much he either looks like her, or even that beginning shot where Tilda Swinton's like has her face underwater and it shifts into Kevin's for a second and shifts back. I think there's so many interesting relations, like the idea that they're more alike than she would ever want to admit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's almost why they butt heads. You know, like when he said he's talking about the scar that she gave him, and he's like, that was the only honest moment you ever had. And it's like, because she did have this hostility towards him, and he has this hostility towards her. So I just think that's interesting to see, like, because both mother daughter in the piano and the mother son in Kevin, it's like they're pairing in the film, like they're kind of like each other's shadow. And I think that's interesting. Yeah, there's so much to think about with Kevin now that I'm talking about it out loud, and it's crazy. I don't know if I could go watch it again to like dive deeper, but yeah, no, it's just so yeah. I think the dynamic between those two is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely the piano. I mean, her daughter's her voice in a lot of cases, which is, a rare thing because, a lot of us are used to having our mother speak for us when we're little. And now,
I'm sorry.
What?
I think I just killed my cat. I'm sorry if you heard. Sorry, the podcasters who are listening are going to hear like a long yowl. He's alive and fine. But yeah, no, I agree. She is, our mothers do. We start speaking like our mothers. So too. So I know I have. So yeah, continue. I cut you off.
I think that was all I was saying, really, just that point.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do think that's interesting, especially when I hate saying spoilers. It came out over 20 years ago. But for the piano, when she does get her finger cut off, and Anna Paquin's character screams,
mm-hmm.
and it's almost like she's screaming for her mother because she can't. And I thought that was amazing. So yeah, I do think it's interesting that we get like the physicality of the similarities in Kevin, and then we get the verbal like confirmation that Anna Paquin is Holly Hunter's daughter, and like she relates to her in a way that nobody else can. And so yeah, look, we found similarities. We came to. For Kevin specifically, I did want to talk about like the nature versus nurture depicted in. Just like briefly, I know because we were talking that it's the psychology of the film is super intriguing, and I feel like, in this case, it would have been so easy to be like, and they kind of almost do it where they could have been like, Kevin is evil, Eva is a saint, and there is no relation to how he turned out, and it's easier to kind of do that because then you separate the blame. But I think what's interesting is like you do wonder like, did she affect him? Was he always going to turn out like as a psychopath? But like when he's super young and she's saying with like really hateful words like, I could have had another life without you in it, does that leave a mark? Is his whole life just destined to try to like screw her over after she says that, after he can tell that she doesn't like her? Or again, was it just nature that turned him into what he is? So I think, God, it's such an interesting thing.
I mean, for a while, I thought it was mostly nature, just because it seemed like her pregnancy was kind of unsettling to begin with. I don't know. She just wasn't. But maybe that was just her. And then I mean, it depends on what you believe in. If you feel like people can absorb your feelings and it affects you down the road. But yeah, definitely that argument is explored in there. And it's, I mean, I think just because of, we only can have so much understanding of human nature and what affects us and what doesn't, and that we're all different. So you can't really say whether it is nature or nurture, but I think it's a combination of both, because she was very resentful of Kevin. And I think pair that with her kind of natural instincts and kind of like how unsettled she felt by him, that I think it was a combination of this is who Kevin was. And I don't think any amount of like nurture would have changed that. I don't know. I mean,
he was creepy from the beginning.
Yeah. That's what
the cat for the child was superb because he creeped me out. I was like, glowering at me like that, I'd probably sit in another room all the time. Like,
I'd be like frightened.
crazy.
I would be like, this kid needs to go to a psychologist. There's something wrong. Oh my god.
Now.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, I mean, like, in my own personal beliefs, like, I obviously think that, like, it's always going to be a mixture of both, you know, like,
Yeah.
you could be the best mother in the world and, you know, somebody can still be led astray, or you can have the worst parents in the world and you can be a saint.
Mhm.
So I think it does depend, but I don't think in movies we usually get such a straight down the middle, especially when the end result is something so tragic.
Yeah.
You know, I think they like to pretend that it was kind of like a freak of nature scenario. So I appreciate that Ramsey went out of her way to kind of show like the ifs and thens, you know, like
Mhm.
maybe if she'd done this differently, this wouldn't have happened, but maybe it all would have come out the same.
Right.
So I think, or maybe, and even maybe if the father or
Mhm.
her husband had ever listened to her, maybe something would have been different. So I think there's a lot going into play because, like, you know, obviously the main dynamic is between Kevin and Eva, but John C. Reilly's character is just much a figure in this whole thing by being kind of the purposely oblivious dope of the family. You know, who just wants everything to be fine, so pretends that it is.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess I just don't see often unless I'm really missing a big gap. I feel like in these films they don't, you know, the mother's a martyr or she's evil. There's no in
Right.
between. And I think that's what's really interesting in this one is we're like, she's just human and she really screwed up sometimes and other times she tried her best.
Mhm.
So I find that super interesting. For the piano, I knew. Did you still want to touch on the whole like her living her own life?
Yeah. I mean, she does this. I mean, because there's that.
I didn't know you naturally segue.
Yeah. I mean, well, she does have that big moment where she decides first to go down with the piano, and then she realizes no, that she chooses to live. And I think that's a big decision. I think, I mean, you know, I think a lot of people have issues with like mothers committing like suicide and abandoning their children and all that. And she does that for a moment because she's just so despaired by losing, like, you know, her greatest gift. But then at the end, I'm glad that she didn't stick with that decision, that she decided to fight and come ashore, and that there's more than just, you know, the piano.
Yeah,
So
I like that too. I am curious if you found it to be a hopeful ending or not, though.
I
Because,
thought, yeah, I thought it was hopeful. I mean,
okay,
you know, I think it was altered because like I like the scene where you see the close up of her playing the piano with the metal finger, and it doesn't sound exactly the same. You hear the tapping of the metal against the keys instead of the softness of, you know, what your skin would be like on the piano. So it's a little different, and I kind of like how they highlighted that, but it still is important and feels good to her. So
yeah. Well, I thought it was up until they showed where she said I still dream about my piano and being there with it.
mhm.
So I thought, you know, because I feel like if maybe they had just ended on her playing the piano with her new middle finger and her new happy life, it almost might have cheapened the whole story, which was so kind of sorrowful.
Yeah.
Or they would have like Hollywoodized it, you know, like given it a Hollywood ending, it's stereotypical happy ending. And I
Mhm.
think by showing that, like she's still a little conflicted, and even by saying where she's like, I don't really know why I fought, it's so surprising. I
Mhm.
think it gives it more nuance. But I found her character to be very interesting from start to end. Again, I think the eroticism of the film really highlights her own agency, even though it could be that she's like being played like a pawn for so much of it, kind of bartering to get her piano back.
Right.
I think it's a very strong character. Um, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, it's a real like testament to Holly Hunter's performance, just how much she evokes without saying anything.
I
You know.
know.
And even in her acting of her harshly writing down really quickly, like, it's mine. Like, you felt the power. I mean, you didn't even need to hear someone yell it. It's like it was right there.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows how much like you don't need dialogue to convey emotions, you know? Like I feel like cinema should trust its audience more often to not need to fill silence every second, you know? Like
Right.
always have people talking. Like we get it. Like we can see human emotions and it's performed well enough. And I thought The Piano was kind of a testament to that by showcasing like, oh hey, we trust our audience to be intelligent, thoughtful human beings. Let's exploit that.
Right.
So before we get to final thoughts, was there anything else you wanted to touch upon?
No, I think what you just said reminded me, like, made me feel, well, kind of made me realize that it's women in The Piano are the strongest characters compared to the men who are more weak-willed, you know, at the mercy of their desires and all that. And I mean, you know, Ada and her daughter, they're the ones who are the strongest and I don't know, I guess most determined. They know what they want. I mean, the daughter kind of gets confused, but ultimately,
No, yeah, for sure. They're steering their own stories, and
right,
whereas the men are more valuable, like you know, they're more want to fail, or sorry, recording in a house with people. But yeah, so I definitely agree with that. I definitely think that it shows that while the women are flawed, they're also thoughtful and they have the agency over their own stories. Whereas like John C. Riley's character is very much taken up by the ego of presenting a happy household. Sam Neill's very much caught up in his own like self-loathing, but also like belief, like a self-entitlement of
right,
believing he deserves a wife. And even Harvey Keitel's character is kind of brutish at the beginning with how he believes that he can just kind of worm his way into this woman's life by bribing her.
yeah,
So I definitely think that's a testament to female directors leading the story. I definitely think we would not have gotten that kind of complex dynamic that shows them being the true leader of their own story had it been maybe a male director. So I'm glad you brought that up because I agree. But yeah, so are there any, do you have any final thoughts on either of the films that we didn't really touch upon?
No, I think that's everything. Yeah,
Breezing through it. The
right.
one thing I want to talk about with me, talk about Kevin, that's kind of off topic of the women director thing. It's just the use of red is astounding.
I know.
So good. It's so good. Like really creepy and really unsettling, like everything in the film. But I adored it. It makes me want to go check out more of Lynn Ramsey's films. So if anybody listening has suggestions on what's the most natural next step in watching her filmography, let us know. I've seen one other of Jane Campion's. I've seen Bright Star, and it's one of my favorite films of all time. It's so good. I hope we can worm that way into some kind of podcast, maybe for like a Valentine's Day podcast.
No, I was gonna say I watched Top of the Lake, which was a miniseries she directed.
Oh,
It's also New Zealand, and actually, when I was watching The Piano last night, it reminded me so much of Top of the Lake because she's from New Zealand, so she knows it and she films it like in a very specific and interesting way. I mean, I don't think we see a lot of New Zealand in films, you know, outside of like Lord of the Rings, which, you know, is not.
But maybe like Taika Waititi's films. Right. But yeah, no, I agree. I'll have to check that one out. I know it's kind of harsh in terms of sexual violence.
It is, but it's really.
I know about it going in. I just hate being surprised.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you understand what it happens and what drives the main character, but it's so well done. It's so riveting. It's worth it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. And then I also, for Jane Campion, I bought on Criterion I buy films I haven't seen, like the poor spender that I am. But it was like on a flash sale or something. An Angel at My Table.
I
I
haven't
think
seen
that's
them yet.
a film in New Zealand. So yeah, no. So if anybody also has suggestions on where to go with Jane Campion next, I'm kind of a noob. Kind of seems like you might be too with these two
Yeah.
directors. And I feel like they're ones that we should be, or I feel like I definitely want to be well versed in them, but I just like I'm kind of overwhelmed by the prospect of where to start.
Mhm.
So if the people give us your suggestions. That being said, for plans for next month, we are going to be Halloween out at the Young Folks in terms of coverage. If all goes as planned. Because I have big plans. But for October, we are going to be doing dun, 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 female directed horror films. We aren't the best with horror films. I don't
Nope.
think. I don't think either of some particularly well. So like while the Babadook might have been the most obvious choice for like true cinephiles, we're not watching the Babadook because I won't sleep ever again.
Yeah, let's not do this to ourselves.
Yeah, like unless like I have a bottle of wine next to me that I can like down and sleep. Healthy living under 18-year-olds. 21. Shit.
Well, in Canada, okay.
Yeah, exactly. We're worldwide. Why did I say 18? Because I'm older than the young folks labeling. You guys, I'm so sorry. So the films we're watching are Anna Lily Amirpour's A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, a vampire black and white western. Gabby, I don't think you've seen this one.
No, I have not. This is a new
Okay.
to me movie.
Yes. And Alana will be joining back with us next month, I believe. And I think it's new to her as well. It's astounding and has one of the best scenes I've seen in years. And I'm so excited for you guys to watch it. Even I'm afraid you guys are gonna like hate it, but I think it will provide like a really interesting narrative, I think. And then the second one, which is new to me as well, is Karen Kusama's The Invitation. I think I picked very mild horror films for us, but I think this one's still supposed to be like upsetting. So apologies. But yeah, I'm super excited. I hope they're both on Netflix, so people listening want to watch and kind of like join our conversation. I like to say it's like a book club, but with movies, so you don't have to read. Actually, you'll have to read a little bit because Girl Walks Home Alone is subtitled.
Okay.
But yeah, so thank you all for joining us for episode 5. If you haven't seen these 2 movies, go and watch them. The Piano's on Amazon Prime, and We Need to Talk About Kevin is currently on Netflix. Go before they're not there. They're amazing. Follow us at Twitter at TYF Official and on Facebook. My Twitter is Allison AJ. Gabby, what's yours?
Mine is at Gabriella Dell.
Awesome. And we are also now on iTunes. So go rate, review. Feedback's nice. Positive feedback's even better. So let us know what you're thinking. And make sure to tune in next month. We can't wait to talk more about female directed films. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.